Honestly, I wish this talk would have happened in 2 to 3 weeks, because then I would be able to talk much more openly about what we're working on right now. But I will try to give you a little peek into the development at SIGNAL IDUNA and also the journey on how we started to apply generative AI in our workflows. My name is Darby. I'm Chief of Staff to one of the board members at SIGNAL IDUNA. And it's funny that we have a financial services track now. We had banking, we had insurance, and insurance again. SIGNAL IDUNA, for who of you don't know it, it's like a Mittelstand insurance company. We are a big private health company based in Dortmund and Hamburg, around 11,000 employees. And I think to begin this talk, I brought to you a little sneak peek into what one of the areas of insurance looks like. So what you can see right here is our input management in an insurance company. I guess you have never seen this before. We did this video a few weeks ago because I wanted to start this talk with one of the core issues that we have at SIGNAL IDUNA, which is digitization, which is not new. But I strongly believe that now with agentic AI and generative AI, there is a new solution to one of our problems that we have. And this is the printing press machine that we have. Quite impressive when you stand next to it, because usually we don't have machines in an insurance company. We just have data, we have transaction, we have customer calling us. And I think this video will go on for a while now. But the point I wanted to highlight here is that, in my opinion, the insurance industry is primed for AI. Because as I just said, insurance is just data, right? So we use historical data to make a risk assessment, how to price our products. We create policies that hopefully fit the needs of our customers. Then we sell those policies, and in case you have a claim or a service request, we hope to give you a good customer service. So I think this is one of the most interesting times to work in insurance right now, because we have so much potential for digitization and automation. And let me start with why we are doing GenAI in the first place before we move into the projects that we did. And so we have two major problems right now, and these are on the slide here. In the next 10 years, about 30% of our employees will leave SIGNAL IDUNA due to old age. We just have a very high, Durchschnittsalter. And to make this more tangible, it's about 300 employees per year that will leave us, right? So, and this is the first problem that we have, because talent is scarce at the moment. And also there's a lot of knowledge that will leave this SIGNAL IDUNA. We have still plenty of employees that have 40 years with the company. That's a huge amount of knowledge that they gathered over the 40 years. And at the same time, in the last year, we have introduced our new corporate strategy, which is called Momentum 2030. And it's all about growth. It's a clear growth path. We want to move from 7 billion right now to 10 billion by 2030. That's 3 billion increase. And taking these two problems together, we will have much more input and we will have fewer people. And this is the challenge that we want to address with AI. So what did we do? First, strategy, as I said, Momentum 2030 is our new corporate strategy. I will not explain the strategy in detail, it's boring. But what I want to highlight is the area where we want to see an impact of AI. And that is this action area of more impact, mehr Wirkung, right? So SIGNAL IDUNA has decided, or the board has decided, that we will have a lighthouse, which is for us a differentiating factor in our competition. And GenAI is one of those lighthouses, and it is part of our corporate strategy. And I think this is a very important message that I wanted to highlight here. This makes the work on GenAI projects so much more easy. Because this corporate strategy is available to everyone. It was communicated quite a lot in the last year. And it's one of the most important parts, that employees know why you're doing what you're doing. And I will come back to that later. But now, let's talk cases. I think some of you might have heard the few last talks that we had here, and we talked about shiny first pilot cases that companies usually do. We did the same. And our shiny first case that we did was in health insurance. The printing press that I presented to you earlier, or the input management. We have around 10 million documents that arrive at our company every year. 6 million of those are health insurance related documents. We have millions of customers calling us every week, and there's one issue. SIGNAL IDUNA is over 100 years old, and we have over 600 different policies in health insurance. So imagine you are a customer service agent, and a customer calls you and says, I have a question about my policy, is this covered? And you don't have 3 products to choose from, but 600. And what we did, and I hope this is flashy enough for you, but we made this knowledge available to our service agents, right? So it's 600 policies, over 2,000 internal documents that we have, now at the fingertip of our customer agents. And this was quite an interesting ride. I will talk about the learnings in a few seconds. But the impact was what fascinated me. The first one is forwarding rate. So imagine you're calling your insurance company, and you say what you want, and the customer agent says, great, thank you, I will hand you over to my colleague. This is quite a dissatisfactory experience. This forwarding rate decreased to 3% using this tool. So the customer agents were much more able to handle your process end to end, so you get a solution on the first call. Second one is handling time. So because of the customer agent being able to find the information much more quickly, you could get an answer more quickly, right? Less waiting on the phone, also very good. In the end, this doubled our net promoter score for this test group that we have. Now, I don't want to make it too shiny here. This was a first test case that we have. We rolled this out to a certain group of employees at SIGNAL IDUNA to see if this has an effect, which is also important as a key message to the board, right? Because we wanted to get more funding for other pilot projects. And in this test case, these numbers are very promising. Funny side note is we had 2 groups of people. We had one group using the AI and one group without AI. And usually you want to have an answer quality that is 100% correct when you use AI. But when we compared the 2 groups against each other, the group without AI was 13% wrong, because humans also make mistakes. But still with AI, we reduce that failure rate, right? But still, I think it's still important that you sometimes expect AI to be 100% correct. But humans also make errors. So quite an interesting case, and also some issues with it. The first issue was this project took us over a year to develop. And when we compare this to current development cycles at major LLMs, etc., this is just too slow. We cannot have 1 year of development time for one use case, right? We have to increase our speed. The second problem was that we had to reiterate this product quite a bit, because this was one of those cases where BCG came in, told us where to look for use cases. The board said, that's a great use case, do it. And it was a very top-down approach. What we learned during the way was to involve the business unit that would use this chatbot right from the get-go, because we needed to have this as customer-centric for the users as possible. So we should involve the business units at the beginning and not have a top-down approach when it comes to use cases. And the third one was about talent. We are a traditional German insurance company, and we are not the most sexy tech company where AI engineers want to work at. So we had quite some trouble finding AI engineers that would join the company. We did it last year, but it's not that we have hundreds or thousands of engineers, right? So we have to really focus and prioritize where we want to have a business impact. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I wish this talk would have happened in 2 weeks, because we are working on a big announcement at the beginning of October. But I will give you a little sneak peek into what we're working on right now. The first thing what we're doing is what I would call mandate and movement. I told you about our corporate strategy and the goal that we want to achieve with AI. What we are now doing is to even more detail this mandate for the company, right? So we want to have a clear narrative for every employee to understand why we are using AI. The second part of this mandate is that we want to have focus areas where we want to identify use cases that are promising for us. So not, do it everywhere, but have by the board clear priorities where we want to start. Service, for example. And this mandate we want to combine with the movement that we are creating right now. So what we're doing is we identified AI champions across the company. I think the latest number was 83 AI champions that we will use as decentral partners to go to for business units to develop AI agents. And we want to identify bottom up what the use cases are that we are developing on the next stage. And the risk is when you have this movement is that you get a lot of ideas that are just not feasible, not possible, or maybe go in the wrong direction. And this is why it's important to have the mixture of mandate and movement, right? Also, the AI champions in the organizations has to understand which are the areas where our focus currently lies. Because the second thing that we understood is that AI is so new, not only to us as SIGNAL IDUNA, but to everyone, that honestly, when you look at YouTube, you think everybody understands how an AI agent works and blah, blah, blah. But the honest truth is nobody knows. Everyone is taking their first baby steps when it comes to this technology. So I think the crucial element is that we want to observe how our employees are using this technology. And we only can observe this when every employee has the possibility to use agentic AI. And that's as much as I'm going to tell today, but we will roll out quite a big application to employees to be able to build AI agents. And last week, to give you a very concrete example, we had a leadership on-site. We had a test phase of this rollout that we're doing right now. And the idea was then that every employee could go on stage and talk about AI use cases that they implemented in their work, because we wanted to have this knowledge share and we wanted to get inspiration. And there was one case which really was fascinating to me, because for a customer, when you have a message that you want to send us through our app, you have to say what you want to say, and then you have to make a categorization. Is this, I don't know, health insurance related? Is this car insurance related? Blah, blah, blah. The issue is that our customers usually get this wrong. And when they get this wrong, this message that the customer has is routed to the wrong department. They have to look at it, see that it's wrong, and then route it to the right department, which is a very frictionless process. And our app team used our internal Gemini API that we have to derive the categorization from the text that the customer writes in, right? So you write what you want, the LLM reads what you want, makes the categorization for you, and routes your message to the right department. And by doing this in the first test run that we had, we reduced the false rate from 50% to 10%, which is just amazing. And honestly, this would have never been a use case that we would have identified top-down, right? This is just by coming bottom-up. And lastly, to end my presentation, I think it's super important when you have mandate and movement that you create one funnel. We heard a lot about how insurance or banking is a highly regulated industry, so I will not stress that anymore. But we have scarce resources, we have a new technology that we have to understand, we have to stick to the EU AI Act, still a tongue breaker. So what we are setting up right now is a very thoroughly thought of process that clearly defines what type of use case is this. Is this possible? Do we have the right data set in place? Do we have capacity with the business unit to test this AI agent? And this will all be in Jira. So we will be able to have reports out of this for the board, right? So we can say this many ideas came in, this is currently being developed, this is what we shipped. And by having this process in place, we now can have a better understanding of what the impact will actually be of an agent, because when you want to have something in the funnel, you have to have an estimate of the impact. And you can later then measure against what you said in the beginning. And I am very excited, to be honest, to see this up and running, because it's currently being developed. This is why it's a bit hidden. I know you've taken photos of it, but we are working hard on this because I believe we will have a lot of ideas coming in, and then we have to decide where to get our resources in, our engineers in, to develop low code, high code, no code, whatever cases, because in the end, it is clear, it is part of our strategy. It will have a major shift for us in terms of productivity. And yeah, so that's maybe just a little intro into the journey of SIGNAL IDUNA. And when you're leaving this room, I think that the key takeaways are: have a clear framing for your organization, why you're doing what you're doing. Have a process in place that allows both speed and compliance, and observe, understand how they're using it. Thank you so much for listening. Looking forward to any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. We still have time for some questions again, so feel free to ask. First row. There's another one.
Thank you. Hello. First, thank you. I'm Pablo Prieto, LLM engineer from Codex AI, and I formerly worked in insurance as a technology provider. And one of the things that raised my question is you talk about slow development cycles, right? And when AI is moving so fast, it is hard to keep the pace. So my question is, how did you identify this problem? Where do you think it comes from? And what is your plan to improve speed to market, for example?
Great question. What I didn't talk about is the company GPT that we have, because I think this is no great news now. The learning that we have from this company GPT is we wanted to have our own front end and the back end, one of the LLMs. But we identified the issue that we are not able to keep pace with the developments we see on the market, right? So to make my answer very short is partner. We have a strategic partnership with Google Cloud since 2022 because we identified that we need a technology partner at our side. We are an insurance business, not a tech business. And we have to purchase this solution that allows us speed, but we have to combine the platform that they offer with the knowledge of the business that we have, right? So I think this is the interesting mix where we want to have our solution.
Perfect. Another question in the front row?
First of all, thank you for the insights. What would be interesting for me would be having an understanding of your organizational setup, how you tackle that. So how do you actually bring, okay, you have showed us the pipeline you're creating now, but what does the organizational setup look inside, and how you bring top-down and bottom-up approach together?
Yeah, great. So the learning that we have from the first use case that we had is to involve the leadership from the get-go. So as I mentioned, October will be go live. Whole of September is just, to push knowledge into leadership brains. Explain them why we're doing it, explain them how to apply AI in their daily lives, because we want to have the leadership to be able to answer questions from their employees. This is one factor. The second factor is to identify these AI champions, as I call them, and to have them really run through a boot camp of AI. These should be, I think one of the talks prior to mine was not every employee has to be an expert, but these AI champions should be. Because we want, if you're sitting in customer service, we don't want you to have to call a central unit where 8 people sit, but we want you to call your colleague who is an AI champion, right? And this is how we try to get to speed. And I think the third pillar is just corporate communication. From October on, in every company event that we will have, AI will have its place. The motto that we have for the Big Bang is, du kommst nicht dran vorbei. So AI will be everywhere because we want people to understand how important this is for us. I don't think this is a perfect answer, but this is how we approach it.
Perfect. Thank you very much again, Patrick,